Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Results Show, where every week we feature real health coaches and real health practitioners getting real results for their clients and for themselves. I am really excited to have Amanda Malachesky with me today, and we are going to talk about getting clear on oxalate symptom triggers. So if you guys are ready, I would love for you to drop the word clear into the chat below this video, and we are going to send you an invite to our upcoming webinar that's going to be next week. And you're going to learn some really information on there, including a better way to assess health problems, how to identify healing opportunities, and a step-by-step process that will take your health coaching to the next level. I am your host, Piper Gibson, and like I said, I'm super excited to have Amanda Malachesky with me today. How are you, Amanda?
I'm doing just fine. It's a beautiful day at last here in Northern California.
Awesome. I was just going to ask you where you were located. Where in Northern California are you?
I am in far Northern California at the north end of the Lost Coast in a remote little outpost village.
Oh, wow. That sounds nice and quiet. Absolutely.
It is indeed quiet and beautiful.
That's awesome. Amanda, we've been getting a ton of questions about oxalates. I'm really excited to have you here today so we can kind of dig into that and really get down to the nitty gritty about oxalates. But first, I would love to know what prompted you to become an FDN?
Well, like so many in this field, I had my own health challenges. In my early 40s, I just was sort of at this culmination point of had all these pain problems and wasn't sure what to do. And so I was always researching and trying to figure out what I needed to do to help myself feel better. And I randomly one day saw an ad for the FDN program in a magazine. And the ad said, do you want to be a health detective? And I thought to myself, that's exactly what I feel like I am already. I think about all these little details and clues and try and come up with, what is going on inside my body. So that started a long process of re-education. I already had a background in massage therapy, but had been looking for a new angle in health to help people with. And so the rest, as they say, is history.
Awesome. I don't even know if FDN even puts ads in magazines anymore. I'm going to have to ask. That's really interesting. So how long have you been in FDN?
Yeah. Since the summer of 2016, so 4 years now.
Okay, awesome. And how have you built your practice?
It's been quite a process, and I know that a lot of new FDNs have a lot of questions about this. And I think to some degree it really depends on who your audience is and who you're trying to reach. But for me, the thing that I finally have found that's really been helping my practice is I started a YouTube channel. I took a wonderful training on how to use YouTube and make it successful, and it's been working for me. I think I have about 60 videos up there on that channel now. And, that's mostly how people come to me. And I have a few referral partners, but mostly it's the YouTube channel.
That's really interesting. You and I might have to dig into that after this. I would love to know more. So let's talk more about the oxalates. What are oxalates?
Well, oxalates are crystals of oxalic acid that can end up in any body tissue any day. If anyone's watching advanced course, and it's really fantastic, and it's not even that long of a course, so you can go over any of your body tissues, commonly in joints or or in the GI. So a lot of the oxalate symptoms that happen have to do with pain, joint pain, headaches, cramps, abdominal cramps, and so on like that. So, or eye pain is one that can happen to a lot of people. And yeah, so they can cause all these different challenges for people with pain and digestive imbalance.
And one of the things that FDNs really utilize is lab testing. So when you are approaching somebody who might have an oxalate issue, how do you incorporate that with the lab testing, with what you are doing?
A lot of my clients, I'm finding, don't really have too much of a budget for lab testing. And so, ultimately, when I'm looking at something like this, which is essentially a food sensitivity that has this underlying physiology, I'm really starting with looking at, well, what are people eating, and trying to determine how we might need to shift their diet to move away from some of their symptom triggers. And so, for oxalates, it's often like, oh, I felt great until I started eating the paleo diet and I started swapping out, almond flour treats, or I went to the keto diet and I increased my fat drastically, and all of a sudden everything unraveled and I have a lot more symptoms. So, I work really in the beginning anyways with a lot of people just on this process of evaluating what they're eating and what are the most likely triggers. And then I sort of design process of elimination experiments to help them test that hypothesis for testing. The Great Plains Oats test has several oxalate markers on it. So one of them is indicative of like an oxalate problem from overeating oxalates, and the other two markers, if they are flagged on the test, are more indicative of a genetic or inborn error of metabolism problem with oxalates, which is way less common. So the Great Plains Oats test is the place to look if you're looking for that kind of thing. And the other related factor is often either mold or yeasts. So either if you're seeing a super elevated yeast level on the GI map, or the yeast markers on the oats test, or anything indicative of mold on the oats test, that can also be a clue that there's an oxalate problem.
So those factors usually kind of go hand in hand.
Often, yeah, not always. Sometimes it's just that you're eating too much oxalate and you have a dysbiosis, which is leading to the ability of those oxalic acid crystals to enter through the leaky gut into systemic circulation. So, dealing with the gut is always an important idea, no matter whether it's a yeast or a bacterial problem or whatever. But yeah, that can definitely be part of it.
Awesome. I see we have several people watching. If you are just joining us, make sure to drop the word clear into below the video, and we are going to send you a link for next week's webinar, where you are going to learn some amazing ways that you can uncover healing opportunities and really have a step-by-step plan to become a next level health coach. So make sure to drop the word clear into the chat. And I have Amanda with me today. We are talking about oxalates and how they can affect the body, and how she really incorporates that into her FDN practice. So thank you guys for joining us. Let us know if you have any questions, drop them below the video. So what are some high oxalate foods?
So yeah, I mentioned one of them a few minutes ago, and there are a lot of the foods that are commonly substituted once people move away from a more standard diet. So almonds are a really high oxalate food. Spinach, all those spinach smoothie people who are adding spinach to their smoothies are getting a really high dose of oxalates. Chard, rhubarb, peanuts, soy, wheat. Yeah, and a lot of the nuts have higher oxalates, but especially almonds. Oh, and chocolate is a really big one too. Those are kind of the common.
Yeah, everybody loves chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to know is, do you have a particular niche or ideal client that you work with?
Yeah, I specialize in helping people with digestive challenges, and especially trying to help them figure out, navigate their way through this piece about what's the right diet for me that's going to help me avoid triggering my symptoms. So, I think a lot of people want to just grab an off-the-shelf special diet, therapeutic diet, but it really often needs to be customized for people. And a lot of people get stuck at this level in the process, and it's really one of the very first steps that we need to take to improve our health. So I help people primarily with, IBS, SIBO, these kinds of problems, and they're kind of navigating this landscape of like, well, I heard I was supposed to do the low FODMAP diet, but then there's histamine, and then there's all this stuff, and they're really, really confused about where to go next and how to tell whether the changes they're making are helping or not, how to tell which food is really triggering those attacks of constipation or diarrhea or reflux. So those are kind of the clients that I really like to dig into things with.
And tell me a little bit about how you work. Are you full-time, part-time? Are you in person, virtual?
I'm part-time, and probably like most people at this point, I'm 100% virtual, although I was mostly before the pandemic. So.
Absolutely. And how do you feel the FDN community has supported you in your business, or even maybe your own health endeavors?
I love having access to the Facebook group, especially. I just feel like people are really responsive and supportive, and whenever you have like a sort of clinical question, or, what's a good product to swap for this thing, or I have a client in Australia, how can I help them access supplements? There's always somebody who's got a great idea to support. And then I always like to share this story too, that practice going, a group of us, just a practice starter support group. So I put out the word on FDN, and a lot of people responded. We ended up dividing it in smaller groups because there were maybe there were 8 or 10 of us. We met really regularly for a couple of years, and we just shared ideas and trainings, and shared some of our unique resources that we had from before being FDNs with each other, and, reviewed our websites and materials that we were putting together. So we had a really nice connection, and, we're not meeting regularly anymore, but we're still very much in touch with each other, and sort of cheerleading each other on as we become better and better practitioners.
I love that. That is awesome. And that's just one of the things I love about the FDN community, is that you can really come together and do some really cool stuff. So we have a couple of questions. If you feel like answering some questions, are you up for that? Okay. Aziza wants to know, she has 2 questions, so I'll ask this one and then we'll ask the second. Does one have to avoid oxalate-rich foods?
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I see this one here about...
Oh, you can see them. Okay, good. Yeah, she just wants to know, does one need to avoid oxalate-rich foods completely, or are symptoms dose dependent?
That's a fantastic question, and actually it's a really important question to answer. So, with a lot of food sensitivities, if you have a sensitivity to something like histamine, you want to just avoid all those foods. And with oxalates, if you think you have an oxalate sensitivity, it's really important to start by slowly reducing your oxalate take. If you stop either cold turkey or too quick the amount of oxalate that you're eating, it can lead to this thing called oxalate dumping, where all of a sudden the body starts mobilizing it out of storage, and then your symptoms can get dramatically worse. So if you think you have an oxalate sensitivity, it's super important to start really slowly and just incrementally reduce the amount of oxalate.
Yeah, I experienced some oxalate dumping. It's not fun. Not fun. She also wants to know that she says, I seem to have lost oral tolerance to many oxalate-rich foods as I've gotten older. Is this common?
I am not sure how common it is, but what I can say is common as people age is that generally digestive function can decrease. Stomach acid production decreases as we age, which can lead to a whole host of other problems digestively downstream. So, in the sense that that's related, then yes, digestive challenges and dysbiosis farther downstream can make an oxalate problem worse or make some of those symptoms worse or influence the health of your gut so that it's not functioning as well. So that's what I would say to that question.
How can people watching get in touch with you? Your website, social media, email, YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yeah. So my business is called Confluence Nutrition. That's spelled CONFLUENCE Nutrition. And so my website is confluencenutrition.com. My YouTube channel is Confluence Nutrition. So youtube.com/Confluence Nutrition. There's lots of awesome videos over there about supporting your basic digestive function. And I have, I think, 5 or 6 videos about oxalates over there. And I also hang out a little bit on Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook is Confluence Nutrition is my page, and then Instagram is Confluence Nutrition 26.
Awesome.
Is my handle.
Do you have a number one tip, tool, resource, maybe something that you'd like to share that you learned from FDN that has made all the difference in your personal or professional health?
The thing that I think really sticks with me, and again I come back to, is the focus on what we call DRESS in FDN. So, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements, which are really just the foundation of all natural health and healing. Special treatments or really aggressive actions to try and resolve a problem are sometimes needed and they're important, but we don't get very far if we haven't attended to making sure that we're eating a healthy diet, that we're getting daily exercise, even if that's really simple and basic. If we can't be marathon runners, that's okay. We just have to get our bodies moving. We have to handle stress and we have to handle these things in order to kind of make a foundation for us to feel well. And, what that looks like is different for everyone, but we still have to figure out what that means for us so that we can maintain our health while we're doing these other bigger level interventions to help ourselves.
Yeah. Fantastic. That is a great piece of advice. Absolutely. Is there something that maybe you'd like to share with other health coaches and professionals who might be watching right now?
I like to just remind people to to get back to the basics. Like, we can get spun so out in the weeds and lose track of the importance of those basics. And I'm guilty of this too. I'm kind of a little nerdy and I really like to focus on the details, but I have to just constantly remind myself to come back to, okay, I've got this client with all this complex stuff going on, but how is their basic digestive function? Are they digesting the food that they are eating well? How are they getting enough sleep? Are they drinking enough water? Are they pooping every day, right? These basic things. So if we can make sure that our clients are doing at least those things, we're in good shape.
Yes, that is very, very, very true. I totally relate to that. And what about maybe people out there who are struggling with their own health? Maybe they think that they have their own oxalate issues, or maybe there's digestive issues in general. Do you have a piece of advice that you'd like to share with them?
I think if I were to pick one thing that I would recommend to help people get somewhere with their health, it would be to do a little bit of self-tracking for a couple of days. I have a tool that I use in my practice called a food, mood, poop journal. And this tool is about just helping people connect what they're eating with their symptoms and how it's affecting their digestion. And so if we can use a tool like that and do a little bit of tracking, we can often see connections that we've never noticed or that we've missed, and these can make all the difference for how we're feeling. So again, like fancy supplements, like all these other things, sometimes they're useful and necessary and we want to make use of them, but there's so much that we can do in our day-to-day life with our behavior and how we're managing our own condition, in the choices that we make every day and how we eat and live, that can really make a difference for you.
I love a good food, mood, poop journal. I think it is a fantastic tool. But the other piece of advice is, if you're going to do it, be honest, because sometimes I'll get people who fill it out and they're not, or they're like, I don't usually eat this way. And I'm all, sure you don't. So yeah, absolutely. Like, it is a great tool, but be honest with yourself. And, you know, if you're working with somebody, absolutely be honest with them too, because that's really going to help uncover those hidden stressors.
Absolutely. I often tell people, like, this is, there's no judgment here. Like, this is really just to understand, what are you actually eating and how are you actually feeling? And there's no like, oh, people get really funny about, oh, I ate ice cream the other night. And it's like, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Just, yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter
really that and how is it affecting you?
Exactly. How did the ice cream make you feel? Absolutely.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your expert insights on oxalates and really how people can get real long-term sustainable health results for their clients and for themselves. One more time, can you share with the audience how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, great. The best way is to head to my website, which is confluencenutrition.com, or head over to my YouTube channel, which is Confluence Nutrition over on YouTube. And there's lots of videos over there, and there's lots of options that at the end of every video, I tell you how you can get in touch with me. So that would be a great place to go too.
Awesome. And for everybody that joined us today, thank you once again for joining. I hope that you got some really valuable information. We are so grateful for you being part of the FDN community. If you're watching the replay, put the word clear below, and we are going to send you that link, that special invite for next week's webinar. And I promise you don't want to miss it. So drop the word clear below. If you are interested in becoming a health detective and you are an aspiring functional health coach, you can book a call with myself, Kelly, or Jess, and that's at functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/counselor. And we would love to just talk to you and explore your options and see if FDN is a great fit for you. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you again, Amanda, for joining me. I appreciate your time today, and we will see you guys next week.